Santa Clara se despierta para verte.
Aquí se queda la clara, la entrañable transparencia de tu querida presencia, comandante Che Guevara.
Vienes quemando la brisa con soles de primavera para plantar la bandera con la luz de tu sonrisa.
Aquí se queda la clara, la entrañable transparencia de tu querida presencia, comandante Che Guevara.
Tu amor revolucionario te conduce a nueva empresa donde esperan la firmeza de tu brazo libertario.
Aquí se queda la clara, la entrañable transparencia de tu querida presencia, comandante Che Guevara.
Seguiremos adelante, como junto a ti seguimos, y con Fidel te decimos, hasta siempre, comandante.
Aquí se queda la clara, la entrañable transparencia de tu querida presencia, comandante Che Guevara.
Back to the 24-hour telethon of the Black Power Blueprint for Giving Tuesday, Reparations Tuesday.
All right.
And we're very excited and honored to be joined once again by Director Akile Anai of the African People's Socialist Party. Uhuru, Director Akile, thank you so much for being with us. We had a phenomenal interview with Director Akile earlier, along with Olafin Ikemba and Chimaranga Sambao, about the groundbreaking electoral campaign that happened here in St. Petersburg over this past year. So we're really excited to have you back on the show. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all of your amazing help with this process of making this telethon happen. We really appreciate it, and very excited to speak with you. And who's this? Jamie Simpson.
Oh, I
Yes.
thought this was Jackson.
All right, so we got Jamie Simpson here. Jamie Simpson is a well-known member of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, the perennial voice of Reparations in Action, which if anyone is wondering where that's been, it's coming back January 2020, so look out. And Jamie, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm doing fantastic. Good to see you, Chair Jesse, and an honor to be here with you, Director Akile. Welcome to all our viewers. So it's just an honor to be here during this webathon. I'm really impressed with what has happened so far, and it's so amazing to have Director Akile Anai, Director of the Agitation and Propaganda and world famous Uhuru Movement candidate, Akile Anai, in which you ran as Eritha Akile Canyon under the slogan of Make the South Side Black Again. So we're back on the telethon for a lively discussion about the war of ideas and the struggle for reparations. And that's what this is all about today, is building the material basis for that. And as white people in the Uhuru Solidarity Movement under the leadership of the African working class, taking a stance of reparations as in our interests, as in this entire city's interests, and in the interests of this entire world. So this is about concrete projects, a concrete project of the Black Power Blueprint. And there are many comrades throughout the country who have set up fundraisers today on Giving Tuesday, as I'm sure has been discussed many times. Today is the day when the United States of America and the white world, for that matter, sort of takes a pause in the annual celebration of all these stolen resources that we have, right? We get together, we look at each other awkwardly across the table at what's known as Thanksgiving, and we stuff our faces until we can't think about it anymore. And so we wanted to change that. We're developing a culture of reparations here in the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. And this feeds directly into developing dual and contending power in the hands of the African working class in the form of the Uhuru House, which you've heard some presentations from today already on West Florissant Avenue. And this includes building housing units, a bakery across the street, a community garden, everything that the people need to be self-determining, for African people to be self-determining wherever they are within the current U.S. borders. And you can help us reach that. We've already reached, Jesse, what is the fundraising goal for today?
Maybe James, I'm very excited to announce that of our goal. So first of all, our goal, for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, welcome. And when you get a chance, you should go back and watch the last 11 hours or however long it's been. I'm bad at math, but it's been a while. So we're keeping this going now. And this is going to be a 24-hour telethon. And our goal is to surpass $2,000 for the Black Power Blueprint by asking you to contribute to blackpowerblueprint.org. And many of you have already heard the call, and we have raised $600 towards the Black Power.
All right.
I want to give a shout out to Casey Mackey, Chairwoman Penny Hess, to Charwa Masimba, President Columbai and Annette, Lou, and everybody else who has been speaking from St. Louis for these past few hours. Wow, it has been tremendously powerful to see the comrades there in St. Louis, to hear from you, and the work that's happening on the ground in St. Louis is an inspiration to people everywhere. We had somebody on from London earlier who was talking about how he saw in the Black Power Blueprint the blueprint for everything, for everywhere, in terms of forwarding the struggle. So it's just incredible to be a part of this, and we do want to go ahead and raise at least another $100 in this little slot of time that we have for this interview. So we want to bring it up to 700, and then we're going to be going into an extremely powerful interview with Chairman Omali Yeshitela in just an hour, and Deputy Chair Onizane Yeshitela. So this stream that you're watching right now, it's going to, like, the minute this interview starts, it's going to be on fire for the next 3 hours or so. We're going to have Director Akile, and we're going to have Chairman Omali, Deputy Chair Onizane. This is going to be amazing. So share the hell out of this link. Make sure you can get tons of people watching. Send it to your friends and family. Send it in the personal messages. This is sponsored by the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, the organization of white people working under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. We go into the white community. We organize other white people to support reparations to the black community. And what we're focusing on right now is the Black Power Blueprint. This is a visionary, positive, transformational project that's happening right there in St. Louis, Missouri, the Midwestern city of African resistance and reparations. So that's what this is about. Giving Tuesday for us is Reparations Tuesday. So let's make that a reality. Go to blackpowerblueprint.org and punch in your credit card number and make your contribution. And we will announce it on the air, and we will thank you.
Yes, and it's such an honor to have Director Akile Anai of Agitation and Propaganda with us to really dig into the question of the war of ideas and why all the programs that Jesse just laid out fit in to the need for self-determination and answer the question of why reparations is in the interests of everybody, why it has to be led by the African working class, and why it's so important to have something like an outdoor event space, for instance, in the African community. That's a hugely significant thing in a colonized community that doesn't have even the democratic right to gather in an open space is under assault by the state in the African colonized working class. Right? That's something that we see constantly, police pulling over young African men, any grouping of African people, if it's not sanctioned or permitted, gets attacked. I know I've seen that in St. Petersburg. So just the things like the event space, the community garden, the existence of the Aquaba Hall, from which we're filming right now, the Aquaba Hall of St. Petersburg. These are institutions that really get rooted in the community. They last in the community. So I guess what I'm doing is I'm calling on people to support this, because this is not charity, right? Mm-hmm. Today is Giving Tuesday, which is a day when people turn their gears from purchasing mode and consumer mode to salving their own conscience about what really props up this entire society. And that's not what this is about. This is about being in material solidarity with the African working class. And if it hasn't been noted already, am I correct that if you'd like to donate right now and help us reach that goal, you can go to blackpowerblueprint.org. Yep. If you're not seeing that on your screen already, again, that is blackpowerblueprint.org. And when you make your generous donation there, you'll be able to see for yourself pictures, video of the incredible transformational process that the Uhuru House went through and the entire area there on West Florissant Avenue in North St. Louis is going through. So it's just an incredible thing to be part of, and it's something that really connects us to humanity instead of this kind of token giving that just makes us feel better about ourselves.
Yes.
So with that in mind, Jesse, did you have any more words for the viewers before we start discussing the war of ideas with Director Akile Anai?
Let's go ahead and do that.
Let's do.
So Director Akile, thank you again for being here. So we call you Director Akile because you are the director of the African People's Socialist Party's Department of Agitation and Propaganda. Mm-hmm. What is agitation and propaganda? These might be terms that some of us may not have heard before. If we have heard them, we didn't really quite understand what they meant. Mm-hmm. What is agitation and propaganda, and what does your department do?
Mm-hmm. Uhuru, well, agitation and propaganda, one, just to say that propaganda is stuff that you see all the time, that when we're dealing with in the context of living under a social system that has been defined many, many times of imperialism, colonialism, and parasitic capitalism, that every idea, everything that comes out of that is reinforcing and supporting that system. And everything, you can literally consider everything you see when you walk out of these doors propaganda. Mm-hmm. When you turn on your radio, there's more obvious forms of propaganda, like the radio, magazines, newspapers, television, even music, books, all those types of things. And then you have some things that you don't even realize are serving as things that are constantly impacting your consciousness. Like even billboards, I even look at sometimes like items in the grocery store, and I'm, just looking at the kids on the cereal box, or, just how things are packaged and things like that. And everything is, pushing something. And, agitation and propaganda. I was reading this book that actually a chairman had recommended for me to read, and I forgot what the author's name was, but it was called Propaganda, and it was about how there's a negative connotation with the word propaganda, because you either think of it as a position of a revolutionary as white power propaganda. And so they're always putting out this type of information to reinforce the ideas of the social system. Then there's the white powers, negative association with the word propaganda when it comes to like it being propaganda being pushed out by revolutionaries. And the reality is that, we're all going to be involved in the process of putting out propaganda. It just depends on, what propaganda, whose interests do they serve. And agitation and propaganda aren't the same thing. They are agitation and propaganda are two different things, but they complement one another. Agitation is, the pieces that go out that really move the people, that kind of, it's like an emotional appeal almost that happens, and it can move people in a certain direction. So headlines and even photos, images, and things like that, videos, stuff like that, agitation gets the people, gets into their emotions and, cuts them to move in a certain direction. And then propaganda is going to be our more informative, our more analytical, being able to even get into the theoretical issues and, like to be able to lay out more in depth, what it is that we're saying. So, for instance, we have Sunday rallies here in St. Petersburg to talk about the issues in our community and organize to overturn them. And the agitation piece is the piece that says I can't pay my rent too damn high. That's it. Like boom, that is hits you. And then you give out a piece that lays out these are all the things that are happening in this city, the context for why your rent is too high, etc. So they're not the same thing, but they work hands in hand. And in some cases you want to do agitation, in other cases you want to do propaganda. Once you saturated a place with enough agitation and you've been able to generate the kind of energy you need amongst the people, then you can move in with the propaganda and start moving it in a much deeper way. So that is, agitation and propaganda in a nutshell. You can go so much deeper into that. And then what it is that we do in the party, we are in a war, we call it the war of ideas. And it's so much bottled into that. But when we look at the responsibilities of agitprop, I mean, they're enormous. And we have actual institutions that help us carry out some of these assignments, like our newspaper, two radio stations, and books, publications. We even have, we're developing the capacity to produce our own videos. We were able to, create documentaries and all of these things. But there's so much more. It's the political education of our party and our movement and of the masses in general, being able to provide political education and, it's just, and even how to effectively do that is still being worked out. But yeah, it's an incredible department with an incredible amount of responsibility. And yeah, that's what we do.
Uhuru, thank you so much for that overview, Director Akile NIE. And one of those institutions that you spoke of is anyone who's familiar with the Uhuru movement knows the Burning Spear newspaper. This is an institution that's been around for decades, 50 years if I'm not mistaken, the longest running African revolutionary newspaper in existence. It's kind of hard to get your head around. But why is this newspaper so important to the African Revolution and moreover to revolution and the whole world?
So the Burning Spear newspaper has been in constant production since 1968. So it actually predates the existence of the African People's Socialist Party. And, at a time where, Chairman Amale Shatella would, he boasts about being like the best layout, and I'm sure that is true. And especially in regards to the level of work they had to do before there were computers and all this kind of stuff, for the Spear. And I mean, it's an incredible organizing tool and weapon that's in our control, which is a really important factor, that we are able to print whatever it is that we want. We're able to put out all the ideas that we need to, and we're not controlled or beholden to anything else. It's a self-sustaining newspaper, and it doesn't respond to, somebody, if somebody is giving you money, you got to do what that person, it doesn't have to do any of that. And it's not a platform that can be taken away from us. As long as we know how to write and copy, edit, proofread, and lay out, we can have a newspaper. And, that's just the beauty of being able to, it's like wielding this power in your own hands to be able to communicate these ideas, which otherwise you're not supposed to be able to talk about, because they're not, you can't turn on the TV and find this information anywhere, or any other place. You can't find it. So, how are we able to communicate these ideas? Increasingly, people are using social media to communicate these ideas, but even that is showing the limitations. I mean, it will only let you go so far, putting out Black power and self-determination, things that contend with these platforms and these billionaires who run these social media platforms, who also function with, the state, which is the agency that is always working to try to crush the revolution. So, these platforms aren't owned and controlled by us. We have whatever they want to do with the internet and social media tomorrow, we have no control over, but we have the Burning Spear newspaper. And, it's something that has to be, published and distributed in every corner of this earth where there are African colonized peoples and, just people around the world, period, that need to hear African internationalism and a vision for a new world, opposite of what it is that we're being confronted with today, where, we can get caught up in seeing all this mess happening and think that this is a permanent state. And we're saying no, that we have all of this laid out. This is what it's going to take to overturn this, but we can do it. And it's also a really important tool because it allows us to be able to, let our own party and our own movement know what's going on, what's happening, because we are an international organization and we have stories and all kinds of things, spanning wherever it is that we are. And we're talking about really important projects like the Black Power Blueprint. The Office of Deputy Chair has a column that talks about the economic work in the Spear. And, we have the chairman's point of the Spear, which deals a lot with theory. And then we have, stories from the colony, from, mass forces with police brutality incidents and incidents where African women are getting their children taken away. We have Harriet's Daughters, a column by the African National Women's Organization that really helps to contextualize the conditions of African women and defeats the whole petty bourgeois line of feminism and all these kinds of stuff. We have African Resistance Now, which is a new column done by Impedum that, just talks about African resistance and the work of Impedum. It's just, our ability to communicate even with our own movement about what's happening. All of it is in the pages of the Spear, dating back from 1968. And I just want to recognize, before closing out this part about just this specific institution, just want to recognize an incredible leader of the Spear who will always, his name will always be remembered when you talk about the Burning Spear newspaper, and that's Omwale Kafing. Just the biggest fighter for the Burning Spear newspaper was Comrade Kafing. And, when you think about the Spear, you have to think about Kafing and the work that he did and always fought for that newspaper getting out. And, he said that even in the whole era of social media that you don't know who you're talking to online, but you go out there and you sell the Spear and you can come back with a real friend. And if you're ever feeling down, get you a bundle of Spears, go out there and sell them, and you'll pick right back up. So.
Wow. Uhuru.
Long live Omwale Kafing.
Long live Uhuru.
So thank you, Director Kile, for that response and for your amazing leadership over the Department of Agitprop. Just really salute that and the Burning Spear newspaper, and just want to unite with the significance of the Burning Spear and make a call to all of us in the Uhuru Solidarity Movement to double and triple our efforts to sell the Spear, to be out there selling the Spear, reading the Spear, studying the Burning Spear. Jackson, who is here, coordinates a study that USM has of the Burning Spear that's going to be switching to Thursday nights. So just really want to unite with that. And actually, before we turn to another aspect of agitprop that you're responsible for, wanted to go ahead and make a call for people watching online. If you like what you've been hearing tonight and you want to do something about it to show your unity with the perspective, with the programs, with the strategy, with the movement that has been on display in this interview, you should go to blackpowerblueprint.org and make your contribution. Our goal is to raise $100 before we end this interview. We want to go into the next interview having raised a total of $700. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 20. So
All right.
that would bring us to 620. So I want to encourage people, let's get to 700. So go ahead and put in $80 or $5 or $10, and collectively it will add up and we'll get to 700 by the end of this interview. So without any further ado, so Director Achille, Agitprop also is involved in some radio stations. In particular, a very influential radio station here in St. Petersburg. Could you talk to us about that, the impact of the station and what it represents for the African community here in St. Pete and beyond?
Well, it's just an amazing thing that the party is able to have access to the airwaves, which is an incredible victory, especially when you just consider where the Black Liberation Movement has come and just the assault that our movement has come under, and how being able to seize these methods of communication, it's really no small feat. And then the party not only has one radio station, but it has two. And to be able to do something like that, again, where the content is produced and it's yours, and you can do whatever it is that you want, and whatever the mission is that you have for that station, it can be realized, and it doesn't have to be controlled or dictated. I really wish I remembered statistics. I'm really not good with stuff like this, but just what was like 90% of radio is owned and controlled by like 8 or 9 corporations in the world. You just think about something like that, and these are all multi-million-dollar corporations, Viacom, all that kind of stuff, and and our radio stations are not those. They're owned by the African working class.
Yes.
And which means that you don't have to hear the garbage, the slander, the type of just demoralizing attacks, humiliating assaults that come against our people on a daily basis through all the means to which they do it, through whether it's ads, whether it's the music or whatever. I mean, you don't ever have to turn on your radio when you are tuned in our radio stations and hear that. And not only do you get to hear music from Africans all around the world, just the amazing talent unleashed in these stations, but you also get to hear political education with speeches from Chairman Amalia Shatella and revolutionaries of years past, and just the leaders of our own movement. And to be able to hear this type of information when we were waging this really important campaign in St. Pete, and the bourgeois media would not talk about the elections, it was the radio station that was putting out Make the South Side Black Again and having interviews with, Africans in the community to talk about the conditions, and then signing off with Make the South Side Black Again, because this is what I'm living under. And I mean, it really just helps to inform. I mean, because you don't even realize sometimes what's happening to you when you're listening to sometimes you think it might be white noise. You put it on, it's just playing in the background, but you are being influenced by what is on, and you end up thinking about these things like, where did you hear that from? And This is how we're able to penetrate, and again, in this war of ideas. And we the station has the tagline, not just explaining the world but changing it, which is just really, really important when we're talking about who we are as the African People's Socialist Party, that we don't just talk the talk, we walk it, we live it, we breathe it, we do it, we produce it out in the real world. So we're not just in the business of saying, okay, these really great things that you want to hear about yourself, and we got Black culture and all this kind of stuff. Like it's beyond that. It's about seizing political power, and the radio stations are saying, this is how we're gonna do this. And so it's putting out all of these different ways, promoting, our party and our institutions. And trying to, win people to come to different events and things of that nature, but also itself serving as like a place where the community can come and hone in on these amazing skills, whether it be engineering, whether it be music mixing, all this kind of stuff, where most of the time we're, not able to exercise any of those talents because everything that we have as African people is squeezed out of us for the benefit of capitalism, benefit of white power. And this is our ability to turn over those skills and see ourselves shine and raise up to our, full stature. And, that's just incredible thing that these radio stations get to do, kill all kinds of birds, with one stone.
Uhuru, thank you for that incredible overview, Director Akile. And I want to echo what Chair Jesse said, and just saluting you and all the incredible work that you do to uphold these critical institutions of the African working class. And we've been talking about what those institutions are. They include the Burning Spear newspaper, the radio stations, 2 of them right here in St. Petersburg that go beyond the St. Petersburg area with the internet, and so much more that the African People's Socialist Party does through Agitprop, which is what you lead. And they are one of the main ways that the Uhuru movement promotes and implements the struggle for dual and contending power is through agitation and propaganda. Could you talk to us about how the party's strategy for dual and contending power fits in and informs the work of Agitprop?
So, as I was mentioning before about just our ability to be able to own and control our own institutions, that's dual and contending power. Because what we're dealing with is contending with, the bourgeois media, the narrative out there by the ruling class that we are force-fed every single day. Like I said, through all these various methods, and can't forget one of the biggest institutions, the colonial education system. So all of these ideas that are circulating around our heads even before we're born, or into the world. These things we are ingested by us, and so having our own institutions to fight back against. And again, not only to just be able to put out this kind of information, but to bring people to something, okay? To say, okay, well, this is where we come now to overturn these conditions that we've been talking about. And again, just the ability to be able to say it on our own terms, which is not something that we get to do. And, when you look around, just to think about, what actual Black-owned media entities out there exist that talk about Black power, that are not afraid of, their whole business operation getting shut down. We do not have to worry about those kinds of things because, from the get-go, we understood we have to be, self-determining. This has to be in our control because the African working class, this is our voice, and we're not supposed to have one. So it means that we have to own this voice in order for it to be the real voice of our people. And, just this war of ideas that we're engaged in, if we intend to wage a successful revolution, it's going to require winning and uniting the people around these ideas that we're talking about. It's about making revolution the main trend in the world again, which means that you have to fight off all of the stuff that happened even after the counterinsurgency, all the ideas that were imposed on us then, and how people perceive the revolution as this thing that happened in the past, it's dead now, and just all these things that we have to contend with on a daily basis. Our own institutions and this war of ideas that we're engaged in, we have to win the masses to revolution again, and we have to say what it looks like, and we have to say we have to redefine some of these things that white power has taken a hold of and confuse people about. Like Chairman talks about socialism, reparations, like the party is in the process of redefining all of those things, so that the people are clear on what it is that we're talking about and can be one and see their interests in those things. And so.
Wow. That's quite Uhuru. Thank you once again for an amazing response, Director Akile. Chair Jesse.
Uhuru. Well, yeah, I just want to appreciate it as well. And I know we're coming to the close of this interview, so just want to really appreciate you once again for being on this telethon, not once but twice, and really salute your your leadership and just appreciate everything that you've put out in this telethon. It's been extremely powerful, both as the Uhuru candidate, Eritha Akile Kenyon, and as the director of Agitprop, Akile Anai. It's been incredible. So we wanted to just close out by asking anything you wanted to say about the Black Power Blueprint and why people should contribute and support the work of the Black Power Blueprint and why you feel it's so important.
Yeah, I think that, what we've been talking about throughout this whole Webathon and even things that we're talking about here, I just mentioned the slogan of one of our radio stations, not just explaining the world, but changing it. And, this is about the Black Power Blueprint is something that you can walk outside and you can see for your very own eyes. And for some people, it's the first time they've ever seen anything like this. And, just the whole idea of the African working class having its own institutions, political and economic institutions in the heart of the African working class community. And you see this organization that comes in and, after the Ferguson rebellions, after the people rose up, and it wasn't one of those organizations that came to take pictures and collect a check, it wasn't one of the, it's the organization that stayed. It's there, it's building. And, not the typical thing that slanders the African community and slanders African young women that were out there on the front lines fighting the police on that day, but an organization that stood alongside our brothers and sisters out there on Canfield Drive, and then said, okay, we're going to build here, and then built actual tangible things that you can see that are being worked on as we're even happen. And I think it's really important to fight for wherever it is that we are, because you don't have to be in St. Louis to support an anti-colonial project, which is what the Black Power Blueprint is. And you can just see the African working class seizing power through these really important institutions. And I just think it's not only is it really significant in terms of the African Revolution, but what it means for our people to be able to go out there and see it and to experience it, to walk into it and to be a part of building it is extremely significant. And it means so much for African people everywhere. And it means so much for everyone who sees imperialism right now as their own crisis. They can see something different and go, that does not have to be my reality. This over here, the Black Power Blueprint, the most positive thing happening in the world today, that's what we're fighting for. And it gives people to see a different type of future, a vision. And that's why people have to support it. They have to support the Black Power Blueprint. They have to support the struggle for African self-determination. Anybody who says that they are a socialist, a communist, a revolutionary, this is what you have to support. You got to put your money where your mouth is. You got to support the Black Power Blueprint. And just one final thing I wanted to say, especially about talking about the war of ideas and changing the narrative. I even think how I really salute the Uhuru Solidarity Movement for claiming Giving Tuesday and making it Reparations Tuesday, and saying solidarity, not charity. That you're not giving colonized people anything. These are stolen resources that you're sitting on that have to be returned back. And making it Reparations Tuesday is making it a revolutionary demand, not some just some feel-good act, but something that means something, has something that's lasting, that means you made an impact in the world. Because charity is not going to, win Africans our freedom. It's going to be the return of our stolen labor, resources, land. That, that's it. So, with that being said, I just want to encourage everybody to go right now to the blackpowerblueprint.org and make your contribution right now. As we're having this discussion, let's make this, $700 goal right now at the start of the next hour, but the $2,000 goal at the end of this. I know we can do it. This has been an incredible Webathon, and just appreciate being able to be a part of it.
Uhuru, Director Akile NIE. Always an honor to have you on, and we just want to echo what you were saying about going to blackpowerblueprint.org and donating generously right now so that all the incredible institutions that Director Akile just laid out can continue to thrive and grow. Chair Jesse.
Uhuru. Thank you again, Director Akile, and we're actually going to take a quick break. So stay in front of your computer and stay ready to share because we're about to end this stream and then go live again. And when we go live, we will be featuring an interview, a very special interview with Chairman Omali Yeshitela and Deputy Chair Onazane Yeshitela. So we're very, very excited about that. So we'll be right back here on the 24-hour telethon for Giving Tuesday, Reparations Tuesday for the Black Power Blueprint. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Are we off the